Hey guys, Chad here with I'm a Daily Bourbon, and today we're going to be talking about Barrell Bourbon Batch 33. So Batch 33 is a blend of 5, 6, 7, and 9-year-old barrels coming from Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. Rocks in at a 116.6 proof point, and just to be transparent, this was sent to me by Barrel Craft Spirits for the purpose of this review. Now, as you know, every review that I do that is a bottle sent to me for review, that does not influence or change my opinion on the whiskey, but me being a big fan of Barrell and Stellum and the entire portfolio that they have, I have very high hopes for this. So usually, sorry about that, I don't have a table in front of me. I'm actually just sitting in the middle of my spare room, so you can see the bourbon behind me. I've got my closet that I finished, so I'm kind of just sitting here in a chair, nothing in front of me. I'm used to a table to sit things on, but we're kind of redoing the apartment. So as we get more organized and more situated, there will be kind of a actual like setup where I'll have a table where I can sit here with a nice background behind me versus just my standard couch. So let's talk some Barrel Craft Spirits. So 5, 6, 7, and 9-year-old barrels. We can take a stab at where those come from. Most people want to assume that the Tennessee comes from one particular place. The Indiana most likely comes from one and only place, but it might not. I mean, there's several places in Indiana now that are putting whiskey on the market, and the Kentucky could be up in the air. So I have looked at the press release for this, but I did not look at any of the tasting notes. So I'm going into this 100% blind, no idea what I'm getting into, but 116.6 proof, batch 33. I've seen some reviews on this, just to throw it out there. I've seen some reviews, some going nay, some going yay, not really anything in between, but I'm gonna put this up against batch 32, probably in a later video. Batch 32 is one of my favorite batches of all time. It seriously just kind of hit every box, checked every mark that there was for me to have in a good everyday bourbon. Yeah, let's dive in. Get a little bit of like an orange marmalade, some citrus on the nose, kind of like it's an orange syrup, dreamsicle, orange dreamsicle. Took a bite of an orange dreamsicle cookie today. This smells exactly like that tasted. A little bit of ethanol. So you're getting that 116's coming in a little hot. So this is a fresh cracked bottle, just opened it up. Some nice toasted brown sugar. A little bit of honey, some grassiness. There is some use to this. I say that's probably the 5-year. I mean, hell, it could be the 9-year. But there's definitely a little bit of grassiness to this. It doesn't turn me off, but it is there. Let's go ahead and take a sip. So it's nice, rich, it's on the palate, it's oily. It's got a very strong cinnamon note. This cinnamon note is really it's very reminiscent of a very popular sought after brand. I don't know that that's where this is coming from, but typically when I've tried that one distillery stuff from Kentucky, I get this note. I'm getting that in this. And if that is true, that this is from that distillery, people who chase those certain colors of foil will be happy. We'll find out. A little bit of oak on the nose now. Yeah, that strong cinnamon punch. A good bit of warmth. Drinks a good bit hotter than 116. I'd probably put this at minimally 120 in a blind. I probably would have guessed it's probably about 122 to 125 proof. Getting a little bit of that grassy, earthy, I lost my train of thought. Honeysuckle. Kind of a little bit of a honeysuckle, citrus, that cinnamon coming through on the palate. The nose is starting to shape up a little more, getting a little bit of a chocolate powder or like cocoa powder, chocolate powder. And it's like a sweet, kind of like a, you know, breakfast chocolate milk, like a Nesquik almost. There's a funky, earthy note on the nose I'm not quite picking up, or I'm not quite distinguishing yet. It's like a wet wood barn, but not like what I typically describe, where I'm like tobacco barn or something like that. This is not quite on there. And it sounds kind of, I know me saying it out loud doesn't sound like it's good, but I do enjoy it. It is a good note. It adds to the layer. Like it shows some depth. It adds some age, kind of like when you get some super old bourbon, or even just like a bourbon that from, you know, like a dusty, that's got that odd funk to it. This kind of has that odd funk. Like I feel like there's a good amount of pot distilled liquid in here. And I could be wrong on that. Could be wrong. I'm fine with being wrong. I don't know what goes in here. I'm just expressing my opinion. Nice like brown butter. Brown butter is really rich, toffee. This is a thick mouthfeel, very rich. Kind of just hangs onto the tongue. The finish is there. I'm not wanting to go exactly back in for another sip. I keep nosing it because I keep expecting more and more layers. While there is a good bit of depth to the nose, it is a little muted, but that could be because it's a fresh crack at 116 proof. The ethanol is kind of wafting out. Getting a nice little tobacco note on the nose now. I don't know if it's because I said tobacco and I was talking about musty barn, wet barn. But this isn't like standard dry tobacco or aged tobacco. This is kind of like a fresh cigar. Like I walk into the humidor, I smell that tobacco leaf. That's what I'm getting here. Citrus comes through on the palate now. Very nice orange zest. Really good rich, that toffee, brown butter. The cinnamon note's more balanced now. At first it was very punch of cinnamon. I won't say it was too much, but that was all I got at the first sip. It's just very strong, I was very aware of that note. Now it's kind of subdued. I'm getting a little bit of a vanilla, you know, your standard bourbon notes, your vanilla, your caramel. But the honeysuckle note is, I don't want to say it's strong, but like I know it's there. I'm getting that. It's nice. It has a nice little bit of an earthiness to this, which adds a good bit of depth. Some could read that as youth, like it's a youthful bourbon. It's grassy, earthy, or you could read that as it's just the style of bourbon. That's why I said pot distilled. Like I'm getting some of those. Usually with pot distilled bourbon, especially things that are, you know, from a smaller brand or a smaller company who aren't producing on a mass scale, you're getting more of those earthen notes, which is reading through here for me, and I'm enjoying it. Usually, don't get me wrong, I like pot distilled. I think Irish whiskey's fine. I will dabble into Scotch, but there are some distilleries who pot distill. Whoever this is sourced from, even if it is column distilled, I'm happy to be wrong about that. I'm just getting a variance in flavors I wouldn't assume from a column still. And the reason I'm going into that is because some of the reviews I read, people said they're taking notes out of it. They talked about it drinking less than 5 years, or they couldn't believe there was 9 year in it, or so on and so forth. But I think people look at something, say, hey, it has ages X, Y, and Z. It has to taste like Z. Even if Z is only 5% of the blend, it should only taste like Z. And that's not the case. I'm a big fan of Barrell and Barrell Craft and what they do, and not every batch is meant to be alike. They're blending to what they think is best at that time based on the profile that they're going for. Not every batch is going to be the same. If you want your batches to be the same, you like Barrell, go with Stellum. You know, Stellum Bourbon, Stellum Rye. Freaking love those. They're freaking delicious. And for $50, it's hard for me to recommend anything that beats that for the depth of flavor you get. I'll probably have a write-up on the Bourbon Life later on down the road, or I will give this an actual score, you know, price point, which price point on this, as most barrel craft stuff, it's around $100. I think we have this at work for, it's either 89, I think it's 88.99 or 89.99, so $90. Once again, not kissing ass because they sent me this bottle. We'll get the nitty gritty whenever I do my final review. But so far on this first impressions, I'm a fan. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Really enjoying this, really enjoying the brown butter, the citrus, that lemongrass, the tobacco, the cinnamon. That cinnamon really kicks through in the finish, got a nice long baking spice heavy finish with the nutmeg and cinnamon. But let me know below what you guys think of blends. I feel like some people are kind of sleeping on certain brands because of blends. They see blend in the label, or they just see multiple states. It doesn't all have to be from Kentucky. There is great whiskey out there from outside our state. But let me know below. Have a great day. Cheers, y'all.